Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Aysh Banaysh, and in this video I'm just going to be talking to you about 8 anxieties I have before my adult autism assessment. So essentially the reasoning behind this video is my autism assessment starts next week. I have a load of anxieties and I thought filming this might be like kind of cathartic and get them out of my brain. So yeah. I don't know if I'm supposed to be feeling this anxious before my assessment. Like obviously people who are suspected to be autistic are, you know, they might feel anxiety around the like assessment and the appointments and all of that kind of stuff and going to them and everything, but I don't know if I'm supposed to be anxious about the actual assessments. I did start watching some videos on them, but nothing told me what I wanted to know. They were just like, no one seemed anxious for the reasons I was anxious. So yeah, I just thought if I talk about my anxieties, maybe I will stop being so anxious about them because it's like I've told someone. So with that intro out the way, yeah, anxiety number 1. I am anxious that I am not ready. I guess I mean that in 2 ways. I'm anxious I'm not emotionally ready to go through this, and I'm anxious that I'm just not practically ready for these assessments. Like I'm not prepared, and I don't know if I'm putting too much stress on being prepared, because I've watched videos and people are like, oh, they have this list that they've written up and stuff, and it's just like I don't even get the stuff I need to do done. And now I need to do other stuff. So yeah, I'm anxious on both of those levels. I think when I originally started seeking an assessment, Cookie, she's moving my tripod. Oh, well, we're gonna have to live with it. Yeah, originally when I was seeking my assessment, like at the beginning of the year when I started looking into it, I was in a place where a diagnostic label was more important and like for me to access support. But that was, you know, a few months ago, and I am in a different sort of place now. Like everything's not all, you know, fine and dandy, but I don't think I'm in as dire need for support as I was then. So yeah, it's also kind of like part of me had this questioning of, do I still need to do this, and all of that kind of stuff, and I think like back then when it was all coming to light and I was doing all the research, I was completely immersed in, I don't want to say autism culture, but the autism community, I guess, and I was like very aware of what traits I had, and you know, I was consuming so much content and being able to, like, it would have been easier for me to do like the preparation, I guess, then, but I didn't. And now it's like, even though I know it all, I've just got so much else to focus on, whereas I guess then the only thing I was focusing on was autism. So yeah, like, bit worried, I'm not going to be prepared. I feel like that was a bit of a ramble. My second anxiety is the psychiatric review. And my anxiety surrounding this is, you know, from coming to an autism assessment from the perspective of, I think I've been misdiagnosed with BPD. My, I guess, question and anxiety is like, am I mentally ill? Like, aside from depression and anxiety, which I knew I had before I even like knew what BPD was, am I mentally ill? Because I don't know. I don't know where the what would be considered autism stops and I start, and like, is what is not autism, is that just behavioural and emotional difficulties based on my life, or is that like a whole another thing in itself? Yeah, I don't know if I'm supposed to fear this that much, but this I think has been my biggest question, like since I became fairly sure after researching that I was autistic. My next question was, am I just autistic? My therapist thinks that there is no BPD and that it's just autism and ADHD, and you know, it's just kind of like everything is kind of my reaction to my experiences, it seems. But yeah, even though she has experience like assessing these things, the focus of our sessions isn't on assessing these things. It's like helping me with what I'm struggling with at that time, because that's what therapy is. I haven't had like a thorough psychiatric review like this for a while. And considering every time I have a thorough psychiatric review, different people say different things and have different like diagnostic ideas, I'm not really sure what to expect, I guess. Like, but I think a lot of that anxiety is more around wanting to know and that uncertainty, rather than being like, it'll be really bad if something comes up in that. It's more about like, I just want to know what's wrong with me. I do worry a little bit about time with these things, because I think the appointment's like 2 hours and they have history of like my clinical correspondence and stuff, but there's also like only so much you can gather in that time. But I guess these people are trained to do these sort of assessments in that time and find the things they need to find, so it should be fine, right? My third anxiety kind of links into number 2, in that I am anxious that everything will be put down to trauma. In my last thorough psychiatric review, that is basically what happened. I feel like every problem I had in life was blamed on trauma, and I experienced my life. I experienced that trauma. Like, at that point in my life, I felt like I can pinpoint, you know, fairly well what behavioural things, what coping strategies and whatever came from what, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I feel like I'm quite aware now of how certain things have affected me, and I don't like it when someone tries to tell me how they've affected me but not listen when I, as the patient, am like, no, that's not it. I don't think I explained that very well, but I also don't really want to dwell on it, so I'm going to move on to the next point. My fourth anxiety about my adult autism assessment is that I will not have enough evidence. There are many sides to this worry. So there are sides of the worry of me literally just not collecting enough evidence, not actually doing the task of, you know, having it there to, you know, lob at them. I am worried from a diagnostic criteria perspective, in terms of like the whole the underdiagnosis of autism in women and it not being seen and all of that sort of stuff. I am worried about the parental interview because both my parents worked full-time, and you know, I've had that worry kind of soothed by my mum making a document that I've seen of all her things she can see that point to autism from my childhood. But I think this is also something that, like, if I prepare, I can tackle the anxiety, and you know, I can have my list of things I know, and my parents have their list of things they know, and you know, they see what that makes. But yeah, I'm having trouble doing that preparation because I am so anxious and I just feel like completely paralysed by the anxiety. And I don't know why I'm laughing, because it's really not funny. On that note of my facial expressions not fitting how I feel, my fifth anxiety is that I will mask, and it won't give them what they need. If you don't know what masking is, it is basically a sometimes voluntary, sometimes involuntary coping strategy used by some autistic people to appear neurotypical and normal, basically. So yeah, it's a coping mechanism often employed subconsciously to basically suppress your autistic traits, which, if you're in an autism assessment, is not what you want to do. Not only am I scared of that, but I'm also scared of pulling out like the classic "I'm fine," which always seems to escape from between my lips whenever I have any kind of psychiatric assessment, because it's like I just don't want to bother the psychiatrist with the nuisance of my existence, so I'm just like, I'm fine. While I'm sure that will be very easily seen through, I am scared of like just pulling that on a whole bigger level, because that is, you know, my thing. I feel like it is just a form of self-sabotage, really. Every time I finally get appointments to really get help, I mask and I don't get help. My fifth anxiety in anticipation for my adult autism assessment is the wait. So usually when we talk about the wait for adult autism assessments, we're talking about the wait beforehand. And I am extremely lucky that I have been able to go privately and I'm not waiting for my NHS referral still. There was still a bit of a wait, but it was nowhere near as long as the NHS waiting list. And I realise I'm very lucky that I'm able to do that. But yeah, that's a whole nother topic, and it's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is the wait after my autism assessment, between the end of the assessments and getting my report. Now, I never really considered this, but a couple of weeks ago, a friend enlightened me that I probably wasn't going to get the result on the day. And that even though I'm like, oh, it's a month until I would have finished my autism assessment, I'm probably not going to know anything on the day. But maybe I will. I don't know. Like, some people seem to do get told on the day, and some people, they have to wait for the report. And I've been told I'll get a report, but I don't know when I'll get the report. And, you know, what am I supposed to do between the assessment and waiting for the report? And will they have any clue before they, you know, even write their report? Will they give me a hint, like at my last assessment, and be like, yeah, you're in the club? Or be like, we're not sure if you make the cut, and we have to look at this like a bit closer. Like, I don't know if it's one of those things where it's like, it could be really obvious straight away, or whether they need to look super, super deep. If you work closely with autistic people, do you then just develop spidey senses for autistic people? And, you know, because you can see the traits more prominently, so maybe they pick. I don't bloody know. I'm getting really like over anxious and excited now. The seventh anxiety I have about my adult autism assessment is not being diagnosed with autism. Now, my anxiety surrounding this obviously comes from having done what I feel is very thorough research, and, you know, looking into things and feeling like this finally explains what I've been experiencing my whole life. And on top of that, my therapist says that if I do not get a diagnosis, she recommends basically that I still treat myself as autistic, and remember that these tools are built on a certain representation of autism, and they're not necessarily going to catch everyone that actually has autism. But in my mind, I am very black and white, and I need concrete answers, and I need like certainty, and I don't think I can do that, because I already, as I guess like as a self-identified autistic, I already feel like a fraud because I don't have a diagnosis. So if I went through the process and I still didn't have a diagnosis, I don't think I could then, in my brain, convince myself that like it's, I still fit that label. I would just be like, I'm just fucked, you know, if like that's kind of how I feel. If it's not autism, then I don't have a fucking clue. So yeah, if they decide that they don't think I am autistic, then given that the people who run the place, I'm going to also work at the NHS place that would assess me if I waited along the waiting list. I think I would kind of be resigned to give up the search, or kind of seeking of a label. Like, labels can be really harmful, but labels can also be fairly beneficial. So yeah, I don't know, but practically, like, the best thing to do would be to try and get support for the struggles that I have, regardless of what label anyone thinks those struggles come under. But that is also a lot easier said than done if you don't have a label with like the current systems. But yeah, if they don't think it's autism when I'm this convinced, and my therapist is this convinced, and my family is this convinced, and you know, my friends are this convinced, like, if they still don't think so, then yeah, I have to just give up, because I will drive myself mad trying to figure out what is going on in my head. And on the other hand, my 8th anxiety in anticipation for my adult autism assessment is being diagnosed with autism. So my worry about being diagnosed as autistic is mainly, well, no, it's not mainly anything. It comes from many things. So part of it comes from like, okay, that's great, I'm autistic. But we've already established that there's no adult autism services where I live, and you know, I'm not really sure what is actually going to change in my life at this point, because as I said, I'm not in the same place I was when I was originally seeking assessment, because I thought, you know, being able to prove that could help me access to support. I think basically it would be hugely validating to be diagnosed, because I think it would explain so much to me, and I would just like have a lot more self-understanding, because I have that understanding, I guess, ish, or I'm trying to get it, but it's like, you know, I need someone to be like, yes, you've got the right, you're on the right path, or whatever. Yeah, so I think it would be hugely validating, but basically not life-changing. There is no way it can change my life, really. Like, it would have changed my life like 20 years ago. And that makes me feel old. Oh god. But yeah, I do think if I am diagnosed, then I still have a lot of work to do in terms of understanding autism and understanding myself and how autism relates to myself, and you know, like all that, how to basically get the optimum life with the brain I have, I guess. Like, I need to just adapt things that I've maybe been doing in a way that, you know, is maybe like the default, but I'm not, or you know, I may not be the default, if that makes sense. So a lot of my worries around being diagnosed are just like, what does it add, / there's no support. But there is also, and I guess it's a conversation that I've seen more and more on Instagram, like from accounts I follow, of like, is the diagnostic label helpful or harmful, basically? And even if you are autistic, is it helpful to have that on black and white paper for someone to potentially use against you. And not like someone is gonna like come and blackmail you about your autism or whatever, but like systems and blah 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 blah. I do actually feel a bit better now I've talked about my anxieties. I really didn't think I would. I thought, oh, this is gonna be really dumb, because who else who is going to be having an autism assessment wants to hear about someone else's anxieties, because it would just make themselves more anxious. But even if I got out of this video just what I got for me and I'm documenting it, then, you know, that's good enough, right? I actually do feel like a lot better. Like the you know, the stomach anxiety, like that just isn't, oh, it's just not so heavy. I've kind of amazed myself that works. I don't really, like, in my head it's also just like I'm being productive, I'm making content, and that's why I chose to express them this way. But yeah, if you have any experience with this, if you are autistic, if you are neurodivergent, if you are a late diagnosed autistic, if you are an autistic adult and an autistic woman, blah blah blah, or, you know, you just want to come say hey, come drop me a comment. I think I was just fidgeting in a really loud way, sorry. But yeah, come drop me a comment if you have anything to contribute, or you just want to, I don't know, drop a comment. I do not know what my next video or when my next video will be, because I have this autism assessment going on, but yeah, we'll see it. I feel like I should have a plan, like you're watching me looking at me to have a plan, but I don't, I'm sorry. Thanks for watching though, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.